Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Goose Chasing, where it's really not about the geese at all. So, Flying V, get the fuck out. It's all about the stories that we're chasing, or that we chased. Chased, either one, whatever you think. This podcast is brought to you by TAGNBRAG and TAGNBRAG Productions. We are also brought to you by TNB Apparel. We have a nice new hoodie up on the website for your viewing pleasure. Apparently, it's for your viewing pleasure because nobody wants to buy it. And if you bought it, you'd realize that when you put it on, it's fucking comfortable. And when you cuddle up next to your honey, more than likely, that hoodie comes off and happy things happen. So go to tagendbrag.co for our weekly apparel. TAGNBRAG's Goose Chasing is also brought to you by TNB Land Management. There is better hunting in your future. Let's build a land management plan.
Together.
In unison now. Together. Actually, we just got another email this morning from a kid from Wisconsin. Wants a land management consultation from you boys.
Fly us out.
Here we come. We're going to get you a food plot that looks like Dino's background, and deer are going to be munching on it like they munch on that.
Look at that. That ain't no stock photo on the internet.
Nope. That ain't no GIF. That's some real shit right there.
That ain't no pay $9.99 for 100 stock photos on Adobe, and that's one that you get, although it should be one that you get.
That is sowed and seeded by your boy. God bless. That's a good-looking plot right there. I'd fucking eat that salad.
Honestly, looking at that right now, I'm like, man, it's hard to top that.
I agree. I mean, that's about as perfect of a Brassica plot as you could ever imagine.
And the deer were crushing.
They were crushing. That was the year that you had the encounter with Neil prior to when you killed them and swoops, right? Yeah.
And honestly, the bucks at least, but the deer normally don't hit that plot very hard.
Well, it's close to the house. I mean, it's
kind of like a tuster plot, but they were hitting that thing.
There was a lot of deer in that plot that year.
They were all up in it.
Well, I mean, and when you got a lettuce patch that looks like that, how could you not want to get them loins in there and grow them a little bit?
Oh man, I would throw a friggin' salad dressing, maybe a couple salad dressings in my tool belt, and just walk through that thing, sit down Indian style, and just frickin'
dip that leaf, baby. Dip that leaf.
Whip some dressing in like a 360-degree circle and just start browsing.
Who's got a fucking crouton? Somebody get me a crouton.
You just pop a crouton in your mouth and then just start browsing. You get a little crunch in there with you.
I mean, let's be real. Can you eat salad without croutons? I can't. I mean, I got to have croutons on there.
I agree with you. Erin was over 2 nights ago. That's our sister. And
hey, Erin.
She came over for dinner. She made a salad. She's like, Dean, I'm sorry. I think I put too many croutons in the salad. And I was like, no, you didn't. I'm like, I don't think that's possible, Erin. So God bless.
And actually, if you look at the health pyramid, what was that thing called? Like the pyramid of things that you're supposed to eat?
I think just the food pyramid.
The food pyramid? Yeah. If you look at that, the bread is on the bottom. And that's what we're supposed to consume. That's what we're supposed to consume the most of. So,
it's the base of the pyramid. I mean, if you don't have the base, the pyramid falls.
Yeah, so it's pretty much like if you don't have croutons on a salad, then you're a fucking idiot because that's the base of what you're supposed to be eating.
So give me gluten, give me carbs, give me all that stuff that nobody wants.
Put the bread in the salad.
Give me the base. Give me the base.
All good things are built on a good foundation. So if you don't start your salads off with a bunch of croutons, then you're just not doing things right. Your salad is unstable. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
The lettuce is only the tip of the iceberg.
That was a good start. That was a good start. Speaking of salads, I kind of have to poop.
Well,
And
sipping on some Javi.
I know,
I got mine out of the way already. But, you never know when round 2, 3, 4 comes up. But
that's what I'm saying. I got mine out of the way too, but round 2 is creeping up on me pretty quick. Which brings up a great point. Pooping in the woods.
Ooh.
What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, you got some people love doing that. I mean, I'm not like if I'm in camp, and I gotta go, I'm gonna walk outside and pick a tree. But you do it. I mean, sometimes you got to do it.
Well,
sometimes you're like, well, logistically, my travel time, my flight time back to camp or wherever it is greater than my wait time.
Yeah, there's gonna be a layover in there, and the layover is gonna consist of me shitting on a log.
Yep.
Now let me ask you this: are you, if push comes to shove and you got to get things done, are you like grabbing the tree in front of you and kind of doing like a invisible wall squat behind you, or are you wall squatting on a tree, or are you finding a horizontal log and kind of burying that log in your, like, right behind your kneecaps and hanging your ass over the backside to get it done?
That sounds challenging. Like you could hit the log.
Best case scenario, there's a smaller tree right next to the horizontal log that you can grab onto, but you still got the brace behind your kneecaps, and you can kind of just let everything happen on one side of the log, pull yourself up onto the other side, and it all stays clean.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the ideal situation.
That is the ideal situation. I'm just going with a standard wall sit.
Wow. Well, you're a basketball player. You've been doing those your whole life.
Dude, we did those like for the last 10 minutes of basketball practice. I could sit there all day.
Yeah, you freaking get out. You're doing a wall sit. You're on your Instagram and you're flipping through stories and you're looking at TikToks and shit. That's just a good time.
I'm actually just being a dude in that situation, and I'm milking the shit out of that situation. I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna sit there and be like, you know what? I'm done, but I'm not done.
But I'm gonna hang out here for a second.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
But yeah, I've been there. No. Lost a few. Were you gonna go to how you gonna wipe?
Well, that was I mean, that is another great question because, like, what do you do if you didn't stash some TP in your bag?
Yeah, because normally I don't have that.
But I don't normally take up room in my bag for toilet paper. That's just not my thing.
You gotta hope. You gotta hope and you gotta pray that it's just one of them clean one wipe Charlies.
Smooth criminals.
Yeah. Because if you got one of them crayons going on, it's one of them. If you got one of them old Crayolas.
If you got one of them old,
you might be there for a while.
Butt plug Crayolas going on, then
you better hope you're near some switchgrass.
I hope you got 3 pairs of socks on, because you ain't getting out of there barefoot. I can tell you that much.
No. Then you need one of those. Slanted, beech trees or something growing out of the bank that you can just hang off of and bidet yourself. If you're near a tree.
give yourself the old banana, the banana in the canoe trick.
Give yourself the old beaver dam bidet.
I mean, sometimes I'll put an extra sock on one of my feet just for that reason, because
just on one foot.
Well, because I mean, then after you go, like you're balanced. I don't want to be balanced. I don't want to be unbalanced after I go. I
Right.
almost want to get like if I have that excuse, then like, hey, if you got to go, just fucking go. Because then you could
Don't
balance yourself out.
Well, yeah, and
And
if you prolong it, it takes away your mental focus and
oh my gosh,
uncomfortness, and then it's in the back of your head, and then you're just out of the game. So you got to get
if
that out.
think about being in a situation where you got to self film like a shooter buck and get shit done when you got a turtle head poking out.
Almost hoping you don't get an opportunity at that point because you're probably gonna mess it up, and you're just like
Oh, you have no,
you're
you got no,
sweating. You're
you got
sweating.
the sock is really the best and most efficient wiping device when you think about it, because you slip that thing on your whole hand like a glove, and then you can just you could credit card that ass. You could
It's like a
freaking,
gut glove.
yeah. I mean, what you got gut gloves on? It's just like get in there and get dirty. Because
I don't think I've ever wiped with a sock.
are you shitting me?
No,
You've never wiped with a sock?
no. I mean, no.
I've left more socks in the woods than I care to admit. I'm
I
not
feel like
gonna lie.
I feel like I need that sock.
Well, yeah, that's why you put an old sock on the outside of one of your feet, or you just put the old sock in your bag, so you don't have to take off your boots.
Well, and they're not like, this isn't like a rubber protective glove on there. I mean, you credit card your own ass and and it's going through to your finger. So
Well,
then what?
not necessarily.
Unless it's like a perfect smooth criminal. I mean, Jesus.
Well, yeah, if you got that Crayola going, then you're definitely. I mean, there's no really. You got to go
Or
back to camp.
even if you
You
have
messed yourself up. You
even if
done
you have
messed it.
a full roll of TP, the Crayola is not a good sitch.
No, because then you got the crusties in there. You sit for the rest of the day, and all of a sudden you start, wiggling around, and you kind of gotta, sit down and spread your cheeks on your.
You need
Yeah.
the beaver dam bidet no matter what.
Oh yeah, you got to find yourself a nice waterfall and hang your ass over the edge. That's what you got to do.
You almost need one of them beech trees that has enough give where it like slings you back up and then the weight of it slings you back down, but it's just enough tension where your ass just plunges and then
Yeah,
whoop
it's just the perfect. You could
back up.
skin the cat to wipe your ass. That's what you got to do.
We've done this before.
Clearly,
No, dude, I just a few times I just take my knife out and cut my shorts right off.
you cut your shorts.
Cut the briefs right off.
Oh, you cut your undershorts off.
Yeah, and then I'm hunting commando, which I'm fine with.
Hold on a second. How do you get them off?
I mean,
how do
most
how do you get how do you cut them to get them off?
What do you mean? You just friggin'
There's 2 leg holes.
yeah, I know, but if you got a nice knife, dude, it buzzes right off.
Are you
I mean,
cutting?
you
like,
almost just cut it like a diaper. Like how a diaper goes on.
So
you
you're
just cut
so
like
you're
4 slits, and that thing whoop right off, and then you can make as many wipes as you want out of that thing. I got systems.
Oh my gosh, the 2-part system. Well, you guys, we'll have a poll on our. I don't know. We'll have a poll on this podcast. Do you cut your shorts off and wipe like Dino, or do you glove your sock hand and wipe like me, credit card style? Get in that crack.
I feel like the briefs, the boxers are already, it's in the same family. Like it's already got the
dirt on it.
The marination is already in the product, so it's like it's supposed to be that.
It's dirty. Let's be honest. You had a turtle head poking out. That thing is dirty.
That's the other thing too. Is if it was really getting messy, you never know.
That turtle's got a flat forehead for sure, and part of his forehead is in your shorts.
Yeah, he was headbutting. The turtle was headbutting my shorts.
He left his mark.
Yeah,
They're already deer tag. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Road tripping, you got to take a shit.
You got to fight. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't care if you're in a Pilot, if you're in a Sheets, or if you got a rundown fucking Exxon on the side of the freeway. That's your only option. But you go in there. Let me ask you this. Are you going bare cheeks right on the fucking bull, or are you are you building the nest?
No, I'm not. I'm nesting it all day.
Oh my God.
Bald eagle for life.
Yeah, I build a fucking condor's nest in that thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to be sitting up 2 to 3 inches. I don't want to get anywhere near that fucking nasty bull.
No.
That's disgusting.
Way. No way. I'll even drape it over the front of the toilet so that your the back of your legs aren't touching. You know, any bowl.
If more people did that, we'd have less accidents in the restrooms. You know,
right?
I mean, because some restrooms you go in and it's unoperable. You got there's no chance.
You're right.
I mean, you go in there and you're like, well, I'm gonna be shitting in the urinal or I'm not shitting anywhere because that thing is a molehill.
You know, part of the problem I just realized this is that more people are probably trying to build that nest, and then they try to flush that nest down the toilet.
Yeah,
and unless you got one of those commercially, just a commercial toilet that'll freaking suck a banana peel down it, then it's probably going to clog it. And then that's when you get the friggin'
you got a beaver dam.
You got a beaver dam. And now
you got a beaver dam bidet, but it's not a good one.
No,
it's not clean.
Now you got to call in reinforcements. The tenant's got to come in and plunge. I mean, you got to get one of them, one of these commercial ones. You know, those commercial ones that it literally sounds like,
dude, you flush that thing.
It's going into another galaxy.
you get your hands too close, and that thing is gone. Your arm is in that hole, boy.
Oh my God,
it is It is sucking you to a different galaxy.
Yep.
But you know what? God bless, because I mean,
those are the best.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Probably expensive, but worth the investment it saves a worker probably 3-4 times a day.
Exactly. Elon Musk would approve of that. Get rid of the people.
They take off their rubber gloves, everything, and they just throw it in the toilet and be like, no, yeah, just flush it. It'll go down.
Yeah, it's going down. It's going somewhere. I don't know where it's going, but it's going somewhere fast. That's for damn sure. Oh, God. You know what? Everybody does it, man. You got to talk about pooping sometimes because everybody does it.
Even the
age all saying, girls don't poop. Well, they do poop.
No,
we all poop. So we got to talk about it sometimes. And if you're uncomfortable,
go poop.
Go poop. Wow. That was hilarious. Now, you know what's going to be the kicker? What you get doing one of them land consultations and you got to take a dump.
Oof.
Now you got to do your business on somebody else's turf while they're there.
It's probably not happening.
No, it's probably just gonna.
Not if they're there.
No. The old Crayola is gonna have to stay in its wrapping.
Yeah. That friggin' turtle is gonna be just headbutting until he blasts a hole through the shorts, and you gotta deal with it. Really.
It's like, hey, sir, we'll have a cornfield over here, a bean field over here. We want some brassicas on this side, and I don't know, maybe cut a couple of the trees down for some cover. All right, I'll see you later. That's great. See you later. Bye.
Hinge cut, soybeans, corn.
Bye. I'll invoice you.
Burn it.
Yeah, exactly. Burn it. Oh, my gosh. That's funny stuff. That is funny stuff right there. That was quite the tangent to start this thing off. I don't even know where to go from there. here, there, and everywhere.
Well, it's funny. We had some major technical issues, and we actually had to re-record this podcast, and I don't even remember what we started talking about last time.
I know, but
Wasn't this?
No, I can definitely tell you that much. It was not this. I don't know if that's a good thing, a bad thing, or somewhere in between, but I'm glad we clarified all that today because it feels better. I don't have to poop. I honestly don't have to poop as much anymore, so
Talk your way right out of that one.
yeah. Or right back in it. I don't know. Depends on how you look at it. All I can see is green lush food plot behind Dino, and I'm just like,
no, I'm glad I put this as my background because honestly, this is making me motivated to make that look like that again.
yeah. And not just for us, for others.
You know, some of it's out of your control. I know we had to have had just perfect rain that year, but
gosh damn it, that is just about as perfectly drawn up as you could get.
Freaking amazing. Freaking amazing. You know, the hardest thing with them turnips is once they get to like that size, there's either too much water always or you don't have enough feed. You don't have enough fertilizer in there, and then they start to turn yellow and purple up. Well, some of them are supposed to turn purple, but they'll start turning yellow, and then you just can't recover. And those things look good.
Man, when they're good, they're great. And but the deer do love that shit.
Oh, it makes such a difference. People don't understand when those things start yelling, which they do a lot. They're very sensitive. Deer are super selective feeders. Like they will walk around and browse, and they know which piece of greenage is more nutritious, tastes better, just like we do when you're at the grocery store in the produce section and you see all the lettuce. Well, if you see a little bit that's like yellow or turning brown, you're not going to pick it up.
No,
you're going to go to the one that looks super fresh and good, and that's what deer do. So if you have a whole field that looks like that, or you got a half a field that has got some yellow in it, just doesn't look good, like you're going to notice the deer just either, not great, not browsing in that portion of it, unless there's absolutely like no other feed around. But if there's no other, nothing else that they're looking for around, they'll obviously hit it. But it's not just turnip plots. They'll do that in a bean field. They'll do that in a clover field, whatever. They pick the most nutritious and best forage.
What is the most palatable? I mean, yeah, it's just like us. If something looks good to you, you're going to eat it. If something looks good to the deer, they're going to eat it. If they like it, they're going to keep eating it. If they don't like it, they're going to move on. They know where to find other food.
They certainly do. And with their noses and everything, they can sense. A lot of it is about, some of it is about what it looks like, but they can sense that nutrition factor.
Sense Amelia.
So when you got a plot that looks like that, you're going to get more deer that spend longer periods of time in it. And that's the whole goal. It's not just putting a food plot in. I've stressed this, even with our land consultations, it's got to be quality food.
Yeah, you'd rather have a smaller plot of more quality food than a bigger one that just looks like ass. Because it's going to create the effectiveness of that specific plot. And one of the things that I like about the brassicas and the turnip blends so much is that, especially when it looks like that, the longevity of that food plot is amazing, because them deer are eating it through end of September into October. When it's green like that, they're just destroying those leaves and stuff. And then those bulbs start coming up. And once the ground freezes, and if you're in an area that gets a lot of snow, whatever, them deer start digging up them bulbs and start hammering it in the late season and stuff like that too. So it's if you can only plant one plot, like if you only have an area for one food plot on your property, I mean that would probably be my go-to blend, is some sort of a brassicas turnip blend because of the versatility of it.
100%.
See,
I mean, yes, but a lot of those blends they may have like a clover in them too, so you'll get a little bit of that. In the springtime, it might green up again a little bit, so you get a little bit more diversity in there. But yes, I would agree with you. They love that greenage. They will rip that field apart. That's why most turn up Brassica Fields, if you look at them in the spring, like March when the snow thaws, it's just dirt and some bulbs around, because usually there's a lot of bulbs and they're not going to get to every one of them, but they will pick that green apart. And a lot of times, honestly, what they're digging for in the winter is also the green. If there's green in there, they're trying to eat it.
Yeah. I mean, what?
Because it's just so, when it's green, it's so green.
When it's green, it's good.
So green. But that's why it's important, like we've talked about turnips, get into a whole thing about this. We're going on a tangent, but turnips are super sensitive to water. And that's a huge factor that you can't fully control with how much rain you get. But one thing you don't want to do is be sitting there in, October during hunting season thinking, man, I should have put like one more bag of fertilizer down. Because at the end of the day, you're weighing all your options at that point when you're putting the food plot in and you're trying to, make it affordable, this and that. But in October, you're going to be like, oh, I wish I would have just spent an extra $40, whatever, and put it down. And last year was a little bit different because fertilizer and everything was through the roof. It's coming back down now, which is very, very good.
Thanks, Joey. No, yeah. But you're right. I mean, when you're doing all that work, like, there's no point of the process that you can really shortchange yourself. Because like you said, when you're sitting over that food plot in October, November, even into December, late season, you're going to wish that you had put in that extra effort, spent that extra dollar, put that extra bag of fertilizer out, whatever the case is, to just do it fully the right way. And yeah, I mean, that's essentially when you're reaping what you sow. So there's just no point in shortchanging any part of the process. There's really no area where you really can shortchange any part of the process if you want a food plot to look like the one in your background.
No, you can't. No, you said it. You said it well. You feel like you can, but you can shortchange it, but you're gonna notice it.
Yeah, you're gonna notice the results,
and so will the deer. Gosh damn it!
And so will the deer. Well, fuck. We on the last podcast that we recorded, I don't even know how we got to the roundabout way of talking about it, but we were talking about one of our North Dakota trips, and actually it was a full year's worth of hunts from early season to late season that we had a ton of success. Dean and I both shot bucks, but it was not the best feeling outcome of the trip. And I don't even know. I don't. How did we get on that topic, or what did we even start talking about, or how did we even make sense of that? I don't know.
I honestly don't remember how it was brought up either. It wasn't a question someone asked, was it?
We were just talking about. Well, I don't know. Maybe we were talking about the hunting industry and making it a career, making it your livelihood, and I think that's what it was. People always say like, you guys are living the dream, and yeah, I mean, we are for sure. We've definitely worked extremely hard and made a lot of sacrifices to get here, but also like that kind of comes with a price of, you build a life of like working in the hunting industry, doing something that you love to do. Now the thing that you love to do becomes a job. You know, anytime you put money involved in it, like you know, it becomes a job, and there's certain stresses and there's certain, I don't know, I guess negative aspects to that as well. You know, dealing with people for sure, and trying to build relationships to create partnerships in the hunting industry that can provide for you so that you can do this.
Yeah, and most people, like, it's not just going out there. It's not just going out there to hunt. Like, it's not just you're just hunting every day. Especially with us, we're doing this individually from a production standpoint. So there's no waking up and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to bring the camera today." You know, and obviously
Right.
it's not just the camera; it's all the equipment that goes with it. It takes double the time, more than that, to set up when you get out there. It takes more than that to tear everything down in the dark or whatever you're doing. And it just, you're coming home,
You're loading footage.
you got to unload footage, you got to charge stuff, you got to make sure everything's in order. Like, it just, there's so much that's involved with it that you're the hunting aspect of it, the actual hunting aspect of it becomes a minority part of it, honestly.
No, you're right.
I mean, from a time standpoint and effort, it's actually a minority part of it. And the other stuff is stuff that nobody sees. We try to capture that a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the crossing T's and dotting I's is not something that most people experience. And it's on another level with self filming, because you don't have a cameraman or someone that's doing some of the stuff for you. So it's next level. But yeah, there's certainly days where you're like, I just want to go hunt. I don't want to do all this other crap. But it also becomes an addiction, and you might have that thought in the back of your head, but at the end of the day, you're not like, there's no part of us that's like, maybe we won't do that today.
Right.
You might think it, but you're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like, we've had a couple hunts that in my case specifically, like, big deer have lived because of self-filming, or at least like the opportunity kind of slipped through my fingertips because of self-filming. And there's so many comments always that are like, just lose the cameraman, kill the deer. And I'm like, well, then this, like, you wouldn't be commenting on this video because it wouldn't be there. And for me, like, I would rather film the deer first and capture or document that opportunity, or that that encounter, that instance, rather than shoot the deer and fill a tag for myself and then but not be able to show how we got there. I mean, that's really ultimately what we're doing with Tag and Brag, is we just document what we do and we put everything out there. So the viewer, you guys, can see and decide what you like, what you don't like. Maybe you can pick something out from what we've done, whether it's a successful hunt or not, and take that and use that in your hunting arsenal to help you be successful. So why are we the ones to decide whether, like, it's just a successful hunt, or where there's a kill in it and that's what we should show, or if other people can get stuff out of our, out of other hunts that we've been on, or that we go on, and utilize that for themselves, or they just want to come along for the ride on our hunting journey with us. Like, we just want to open those doors to anyone and everything, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, going back to it, yeah, if you're going to commit to bringing viewers along with you, you gotta full ass it. You can't half ass it.
No, because you never know.
I'm talking about with the camera standpoint of it. You got a full ass it. I mean, you just can't, and it's something you got to fully commit to, which we do. And the day, the day you don't bring the camera, or the day you're like, deer's coming in, I'm freaking out, I got to make this happen,
I'm just going to
can't,
shoot him.
yeah, cameras off, or like, I'm not going to worry about that. The day you start doing that, it's just going to start developing like the habit of cameras now secondary instead of cameras primary, I think.
Oh, no, that's 100%.
So you
Because
just got to stay locked in with it.
yeah, if it's truly something that you want to do, I mean, it's like anything. It's like anything in life. Like if you want something bad enough, you can get it. You can achieve it. You can go do it, but you have to stay committed to it. Good, bad, or indifferent. There's going to be hiccups and there's going to be obstacles along the way, but and there has been, in our past, hence the North Dakota story that we'll tell here, but you got to be willing to ride it out and just keep going.
And honestly, I know we can go on a tangent on this too, but even as far as like, hunting, deer hunting, there's so many low light opportunities, and we've even gotten to the point where we've committed to, like, if it don't look good on camera,
don't do it.
We pass it up. Like that does. I'm saying if you're inside your 30-minute before or after sunset, time. There were 2 or 3 times this year where it was like 20 minutes after sunset, and especially if it's early season, like people know if it's early season and you're in or near hardwoods, it's freaking dark. And especially with the camera, like there's times where it's 10 minutes after sunset, especially if it's cloudy and you're in the woods and there's leaves on the trees. I'm like, I can't. It's dark. I can't see.
I mean,
and definitely the camera definitely can't see. So we're like, well, it's almost like you gotta shut it down.
You could have killed Bernie in bow season twice this year, right?
I could have killed Bernie twice in bow season. In obviously, yes.
In low light
conditions. Yeah,
legal low light scenarios.
Yeah, 100% legal. The second time, actually no, the first time was literally like I had four minutes left of technical legal time. But he walked 18 yards in front of me, and it looked so terrible with the camera. I'm like, this is awful. And he came in so quickly. Like he literally worked a scrape and then walked right in front of the blind. And it like I didn't have it wasn't like I filmed him for an hour, or something, and then in good light and then got a shot opportunity. It was just, it didn't look good. And then actually the time before that I almost killed Cartman up in the beans. And then Bernie came out with like 7 minutes left. He was at 25 yards, and I don't know what was going on with the my cam. I literally think some days it's just the lighting outside. You get an overcast day or whatever.
Oh, for sure.
Because I was looking at my phone. I'm like, why can't I not see him good at all in the camera? But yeah, I didn't shoot.
I mean, that's a 155-inch deer. Like that's not a
yeah.
I mean, for bow season, especially up in New York, like that's an insane pass or an insane discipline to say the lighting's not good. I mean, perfectly legal opportunity. Any hunter without a camera is probably taking a shot.
Oh yeah, definitely taking a shot.
And you just let that sucker walk.
Yep.
That's pretty nuts.
But just having the confidence that, hey, we'll get another, I'll get a shot at them. But again, that's just some of it's got to feel right. I know I overdo that. A little bit. But yeah, it just didn't feel good. And on top of that too, both scenarios were I was in a blind, and filming in a blind, even with your eyes, second angles for sure, but with your eyes, I don't know why, because it's super dark in the blind, especially when it's getting dark.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's the camera has a tough time picking up the outside light or whatever it is, but something goes on there. And, when you're in a blind, a lot of times at that, like 15 minutes before sunrise or 15 minutes after sunset, a lot of times, like, your light is it's minimal.
Yeah. Well,
even from a sight, even from like your actual eye standpoint.
Yeah. And it honestly, like from a production standpoint, I know that's not what it's all about, but telling the story is what we are out there to do. And part of telling that story is having a second angle, like inside the blind, so you can see what you're doing to set up for that shot. Self-filming for sure, because that tells it all, and it captures, like, it fully captures that raw emotion in the moment. And that's why I think we get so many people that say, like, your guys' hunts are so real and authentic, and we can feel like we're there with you. But it's there's nothing that's staged ever in any of our shit. There's nothing staged, like nothing. If there's something that has to be staged, we don't do it. Like, we just, we figure out a different way to show it, or to, kind of capture that hunt. But it's all real time, real shit. So if we can't capture that portion of it, that makes it real tough for us, at least with our style, to tell that story fully. And so, I mean, case in point, Bernie got another couple weeks to live and spread his seed a little bit, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah. Great genetics, if that even matters.
But the funny thing, like how Dean was saying, he's so cautious. I wouldn't say cautious, but Dean is definitely the, out of the two of us, the one that, takes his time, makes sure that an opportunity or a situation is pretty much perfect before he lets that arrow go or takes that shot. And more respect out of anything. But that makes this story even crazier. A couple years back, it's more than a couple years back now. It's probably like 6 or 7 years back, I think, was our, I don't know, maybe 4th, maybe 5th year in North Dakota. And we went out. Dean and I had both already shot bucks out there. Actually, the year before was the year we were hunting Peter Griffin, and ended up going back out in October, and we shot that really nice, massive bodied 8-point mystery deer. And we went back out the next year, and for whatever reason, it was kind of a slower year, if I remember, Dean, because like we were seeing a lot of deer on camera, but there wasn't anything like massive rack wise, it was just one of those years. And the one deer that we did finally hone in on, we called him Alan from The Hangover, because he was just a fat 8-point frame, kind of like a tighter, taller rack, pretty heavy deer, or heavy rack deer, but definitely a big bodied deer. I mean, if his rack was any bigger, you really wouldn't have questioned it. I think we just came accustomed over the years before that of seeing, bigger deer, and we were kind of so focused on that. But given that there wasn't a ton to go after that specific year, we honed in on this buck that we nicknamed Alan. And I mean, he gave us the runaround, like complete runaround.
I think we had 5. Well, I was specifically hunting him, but I think I had 5 sits, if I'm not mistaken, and had encounters with him on 4.
Right. And the one was nuts. I mean, there was a couple encounters in velvet, and we had never killed a velvet deer before. So that was kind of like, we were so hyper focused on that, and he was holding his velvet a lot longer than some of the other deer that we had on camera. And I remember, the one hunt you were sitting there and that deer came in, literally his velvet was hanging off. His rack was completely bloody. I mean, it was something that I've never seen before. That's for sure. And the footage is insane.
No, it was nuts, and it was unreal to be able to experience that, because we have talked about there is such a tiny window of when that happens. Like, I mean, 99% of the time, the bucks aren't like walking around for a week with their velvet hanging off. Like when it's coming off, they want it off.
Yeah, they want it off now.
And he made this very apparent, because we actually had, I remember we had trail camera photos of him that morning, I believe, and he was in full velvet. And then obviously saw him in the afternoon, and he came in just blood coming down his rack. I think there was some on his face, velvet hanging off both sides. It was crazy. I was shitting my pants when I saw him coming in. And if you see the footage or see that particular hunt, you'll probably be like, why did that deer not get an arrow? Because when I say he came 3 yards from my tree, he was destroying a branch
on your tree,
on my tree,
yeah,
and trying to get his velvet off, which he was succeeding at. But I'm literally filming this thing basically through my feet, and his velvet's flying off. He's like just trying to get it off. It's like he's thrashing to make a scrape, but it wasn't for that. It was, I want my velvet off. Funny thing is, I actually have there was like a big chunk of velvet that some of it he ate, but he left this big chunk of velvet on one of the branches. And when I got down that night, I grabbed it. I think we still have it just because it's cool. I'm like, you never get to see anything like this.
Yeah. Chew on it.
I know. Didn't they used to have like that antler spray or something? It was supposed to like
make your balls smaller,
make your pecker stick up or something. I don't know what it was, but they had that. It was like recovery or like a damn.
No, that's exactly what it is.
So we put it in our salad. But anyway, that deer came straight to the tree, and there was just, at that time of year, there's so much foliage on the trees. There's so much green going on. I couldn't shoot him, and he was right underneath me. I'm like, I don't like that shot. I'm not gonna shoot him right between the like. I just didn't like it. And he worked his velvet for, I don't even remember what it was in the video. It was 30 seconds to a minute. It felt like 10 minutes. But he ended up walking literally dead away from me, around like just in my blind spots in this tree. And I didn't get a shot at him. But what I realized is, for several encounters, this is like a huge, massive, like cottonwood tree.
Yeah, huge branches, ton of foliage.
Yeah, next to a little lake slough, and it's so big. It's hard to hang a tree stand in it because you can't wrap your arms around this thing. But the branches come out; they're so massive, and you can't like trim them, that you have a ton of blind spots. Surprisingly, because it's like a single tree in the middle of. I mean, you can see for miles, but around you, there's a ton of blind spots just because of all these big branches and all the leaves on them. So he literally like he just walked dead away from me, took one of these branches, blind spots, and it was at that point, it was 10 minutes and it had gotten dark. So I think the next night I saw him, there wasn't enough light left. I saw him with like 5 minutes left of light. But I think he ended up getting in bow range, but it was too dark. And then, so then he was, after that, and we had a couple encounters before that. After that, he was starting to piss me off. Like, this deer was getting to us. It was like, all right, we got to make this happen. This is ridiculous. Have had this deer in my lap twice and haven't been able to shoot him.
Well, yeah, and the bummer, like we were trying so hard at that point to get the velvet buck opportunity.
Yeah.
And like, obviously the encounter when when he was under you and he was shedding his velvet was awesome, but it was like that was the last of that opportunity. And then, I mean, he's a hardhorn deer, still a nice, mature North Dakota deer, not taking anything away from him for sure, but like we had shot 3 North Dakota bucks between the two of us at that point, and all of them, were hardhorned. So we really wanted to shoot something in velvet. So that was kind of the bummer, I guess, of it at that point. But also, like you said, he was getting under your skin. So I was like, all right, we need to kill this damn deer.
Yeah, need to make this happen. But you also know when deer shed their velvet, I mean, most of the time they start switching up, like they start changing what they're doing a little bit. But anyway, the final night, not the final night, but that following night, was, I mean, it was such a beautiful night, and I started seeing deer fairly early. I had this one buck that, did we already had nicknamed him? Yeah,
We nicknamed him Phil with Alan because, once again, from The Hangover, because he was they were always hanging out, and Phil was I mean, he was a 2.5er, solid up and comer, 8-point, little kicker, looked like he was going to be a really nice buck in the coming years, but he was just a regular. Like, if you were going into that spot, you knew you were going to see Phil.
Yeah,
That's
somewhere
to
Phil
see
was
Phil.
going to be up.
And this specific night was in the Killing Tree, which Dean and I shot our first North Dakota bucks out of the same tree. And in this spot, there's very few trees in this spot, but there's a hill that's probably like a half to 3/4 of a mile away where you can get up on this hill and you overlook the whole lake slough system that's back in this area. And you really can see, what the deer are doing, big picture, on that specific chunk of property. So the wind was not right for the spot that I had been hunting. And so what I elected to do that night was just go up on the hill and kind of scout and see if Alan was starting to change his pattern. Then maybe we could make a move to one of the other like 4 trees on that piece of property to go hunt him. If not, Dean was going to be in there, and hopefully he got his opportunity.
Yeah, so the night went on, and here comes Phil. Phil came in. He was just slowly feeding through the beans, coming from the direction that the last 3 times Alan had come from. Like, this is that's the direction Alan was bedding. So everything wind wise, we were setting up for that direction. But I had watched him for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And so if I'm facing, the bean field, he's coming off to my left, and watched him for a while. And then probably like 20, 30 minutes before dark, I look up towards the truck, towards where I walk in from, and a couple 100 yards away, Alan is walking around one of these lakes. I don't know where he came from. I don't know where he was bedding, but it was a totally different spot. And he was literally coming in my tracks from how I accessed this spot. So I'm like fumbling, trying to, move stuff around, this and that. Well, he starts working his way in, and mind you, the direction he's coming from, I'm going to see him up until about, I don't know, 80 to 90 yards. And then this massive branch of this cottonwood tree blocks like 40 yards worth of beans until it opens back up like in a lane at like 25 yards from me. It's just a massive branch that swoops out, and I can't see like any of the beans where he's going to be walking in. So he's working his way in. I'm like, oh my God, he's committed to coming in front of me. There's literally a 50-yard strip of beans in between these 2 lakes where we have this tree stand set up, and he's going to walk between me, like in that section. And so he disappears behind this branch, and I'm getting everything ready because I'm like, I'm not going to see this deer until he gets into my lane, and I got to stop him and shoot him. So I put the camera on the lane, and I'm just waiting. Like, I'm waiting, and it's feeling like it's taking forever. Because when I saw him last, he was just kind of on a steady, committed walk. Mind you, old Philly is, I'm not thinking about him, but from what I remember, he was still technically behind me now, but off to my left. And I'm like squatting down. I'm looking under this branch. I'm trying to see if I can see legs walking, this and that. Like I'm like, where is this deer? Is he coming? What's happening? So finally, I squat down. I see a couple legs moving. I'm like, oh my God, he's coming. And I get the camera's there, recording. I literally just drew my bow. The deer steps into the lane. Like, I just was in total kill mode, and I saw the rack, stopped the deer perfectly. He was like 27, whatever, almost 30 yards. Put it behind the shoulder, let it go. Saw my whatever green knock disappear right behind his shoulder. I'm like, perfect shot. Smoked him. I watched him run like 40, 50 yards. He did like a somersault in the beans. Done. I was going nuts. Like, I'm like, oh my God. This whole week of Allen, all these encounters, crazy footage, shed and velvet. I'm like, we freaking got it done. So I called. Yeah, we got it done. I called David. I'm like yelling in the stand. We're going nuts. I'm like, we got Allen.
Well, all the while I'm on top of this hill, right? So I get the phone call, and I had seen a couple deer, in the beans, kind of working behind Dean and stuff like that, and I had seen Phil, come from the backside and come up over the hill and feed through the beans, but I never saw Allen back there, and I felt like I should have seen him prior to Dean getting a shot. So when Dean's calling me, I'm like, oh, man, what's going on? And I answer the phone, and he's going freaking nuts. Well, I'm on the phone with Dean, and I see this deer like past Dean up on this hill, kind of bounding away, big. And it just, when you see a mature deer, like even from afar, right away. I mean, like that's just a different animal. And it was a big deer that I saw. I mean, it had to be 3/4, almost a mile away that I could see him. But from the naked eye, I'm like, that's a big deer. And he like bounded way up on this hill. And then he kind of like, I could tell he looked back in Dean's direction, and then he just bounded up and over the hill. But I'm on the phone with Dean, and he's like, I just shot Allen. We're going freaking nuts. Like, it was so euphoric because, like Dean said, I mean, it was so much time and energy put into this deer, and we'd had so many encounters with him, and it finally came to fruition. So I'm like all jacked up. I'm running down the hill. I'm packing up my stuff, running down the hill. I couldn't get to Dean fast enough to go recover this buck.
No, we were so amped, and finally Dave gets to me. We got to go find him. He's only 40, 50 yards away, and we start walking through like waist-high beans. Thought we immediately went to the spot where I'm like, no, he's like right here. And somehow we can't find the deer. He's like lost in the beans, which is easy to happen.
When the beans are that tall, it's easy to happen, but
they're all, they're all leaved beans.
Yeah,
still.
Yeah, they're still, they're still lush green, and like, but with a deer that size, I would have thought, he would have made a hole in the beans, or
he's gonna mat them all down, and you're just gonna see an opening, and then you're gonna go up and find them. But there was none of that.
Well, and it was lower light, so that was kind of our disadvantage. Yeah. But with how far the deer ran, like Dean was explaining to me, we're circling this area, and I'm like, what in the fuck? Like, how are we not finding this deer? To the point where we went back to the where you shot him, and got the camera out of his bag. I'm like, Dean, show me this footage. Like, I don't like. There's no way. Like, we can see all of this right here as we're standing right here. And so we watch the footage and watch them crash. Like, even still, we didn't discover this, but watch them crash. And we're like, damn, this deer's got to be right up on like the crest of this little hill in the beans right here. So we start going and start kind of like combing through the beans again, just real slow. And finally, like I creep up and I could see like the ass end of this deer, and he's like tucked under these beans, and I'm like, I creep up to him and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, Dean's not by me at this point, but I'm looking at this deer and I'm like, it's Phil. Like, it's the smaller of the two 8-points. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, Dean, he's right here. Dean starts walking over. I'm like, dude, it's Phil. Like, you shot Phil. And he's like, I shot Phil? And I'm like,
Nobody else did.
I mean, Phil's dead right here with a perfectly placed, like, double lung arrow right through his freaking.
I was so mind blown that I didn't believe it. I was like, no. I'm like, no. Like, I almost was like, no, we got to look for Alan. Like, I don't know what happened to Phil, but we got to look for Alan because I shot Alan.
And I'm like,
I was that mind blown where I was like, no way, I shot Phil. That didn't happen. He was coming in from this way. That Alan or Phil was over here. It was not Phil.
I was dumbfounded too, because Dean was, I could tell, and we go back to it, like how careful and just precise Dean is with his decision making, with his shot opportunities and stuff like that. I'm like, this, there's just like, this is impossible that this happened. Like, it's impossible. I mean, Dean wouldn't make this mistake, couldn't make this mistake, and especially, in bow range, it was daylight. Like, it wasn't even sunset at the point when you shot him.
No.
We were both just so dumbfounded. But the reality of the situation was we were hunting Alan. After the fourth or fifth opportunity, Alan was coming in. Dean, what he thought, smoked Alan. And in reality, it was fucking Phil. And like all the while, we're standing there like kind of flipping out over all of this. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, holy shit. When I was on the phone with Dean, I saw Alan run up over the hill. That was Alan. I know Alan. It was. I know it was a mature deer. I know that was him.
It was.
That was Alan. Because Dean shot Phil.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I've seen this happen on like TV or heard someone telling the story, and I'll admit I've said, like, how in the hell how does that ever happen? How does it ever happen? But it did to me. But I mean, I don't really, like I said, there were so many blind spots, and when I first saw Alan, it was probably a little bit more time than I'm even giving it credit for, but I totally tuned Phil out, who was behind me, and I must have just assumed in my head that he was back far enough where I'm like, well, he's not coming like this way, or like he's not right underneath me. I didn't even hear him or anything. But while Alan was coming in, they must have seen each other.
They had to have seen each other the whole time.
Yeah.
Just because they're in the beans.
Yeah.
Like, that's why Alan was on a fairly, like, quick walk in your direction, because he saw Phil up on the hill on your other side, and naturally, deer attract deer, like they were coming towards each other.
And if I remember in the footage, he was locked. He was looking at Phil. I can't remember if there were a couple other doe around. I think there was, and I thought maybe Alan was just looking at them, but he was definitely locked on other deer. And Phil went through that, he came out in front of me in that like 50-yard strip. And
you could see it in the second angle. He saw Alan and he looped around while you weren't looking, like far into that strip.
Yeah, and it was far enough where not even far enough. It was in my blind spot enough where I didn't like catch him out of my peripheral. Like it was mainly blind spots. And once he gets out, like literally directly in front of me, I got another massive branch covering, and he must have went out behind all of that and just literally did like a half moon shape and came out right in front of me. And he literally cut in my whole blind spot that I couldn't see, he cut Alan off
and he got shot
and literally took Alan's path. It still blows my mind. I'm like, it's literal. It's impossible. It's impossible. And he did. He cut Alan off, and that's why it was, it felt like it was an eternity. I'm like, why isn't Alan? He was like on a dead committed walk. I'm like, he should be in this opening already, and he wasn't. It's probably because they met and I don't know what they were doing, but yeah, Phil cut him off and literally walked right in the lane. And I was so locked in kill mode and ready, because you have to be when you're self-filming, especially when you have that many blind spots. I only had a lane. That was all I had. So honestly, when he walks through that lane, he's got so many places he could go that I may not get a shot again.
It was just like, you got to get it done right here, right now.
That's exactly what I thought. I got to get done right here, right now. So I set the camera up there. Everything was ready. I'm like, I'm anticipating this perfectly. And I did. I was drawn and ready to roll. The camera was on it. And, most people in that situation, they're not like staring at the rack. So I had already in my head, I D'd him. I'm like, Alan's coming. I just need to see the deer. And I did. And I just saw enough rack to where I'm like, it's Alan. And I let it rip. And it messed me up it messed me up for like a year.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, it still messes me up.
I could feel it. I mean, you want to talk about a crazy feeling when literally everything that you've, like, from a scenario standpoint, everything that you've worked for and put so much blood, sweat, and tears and time into, we're in North Dakota, 18 hours, 1,200 miles from home, like multiple encounters with this deer, finally get it done. And like from the filming and the shot execution standpoint, everything was done perfectly. Smoked the deer, ran like 50 yards, literally did like a somersault on camera. Like, it was nuts. And I mean, it was so crazy because we watched the footage, and albeit it was on like the small screen of the camera, like we literally both watched the footage, still didn't discover that it was Phil and not Alan, and then found the deer, and it was the craziest feeling ever for both of us. But I felt for Dean because, and I'm probably as dumbfounded as he was, because I know that, like, if there's anybody that this won't happen to, it's my brother. Like, he's not going to make that mistake. He over IDs everything. Like, there's no fucking chance that happens to him. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And I would have said that won't ever happen to me.
Right.
But maybe that was the problem.
I mean, and it just like, just a crazy scenario and a crazy feeling, because once again, you do everything right and you execute fully, and you've got a dead deer on film. Like I said, traveled all the way to North Dakota, got it done, but it feels like you did something so wrong in a sense.
Yeah. And internally, that is what I felt like. And again, I still got Phil's rack. Like, it's a nice deer. It's a nice buck. It just wasn't the one we were after. So it just felt so weird. Like, the whole drive home was weird. And I wouldn't say we made the most of it. It's always a great trip. It was a great hunt. It was successful. We cherished the hell out of it. Like, we ate the deer, like the meat,
He was a tender little bastard.
Young tender little bastard. So everyone, Dad, everyone at home was like, yeah, this is so good. And I'm like, well, it's veal, pretty much.
Just trying to make you feel better, bro.
but it was. We ate him up good. He's, so we the whole harvest was cherished to the fullest. But wow, what a shocker. And I was mind blown. I remember hunting in New York like in October and just sitting in the stand, and I'm like, just still trying to process it. I'm like, how did that happen? Like, it was Alan. I know it was Alan coming in. Like, I know it was. And
Oh,
it
my
was
gosh.
so crazy to the point where I questioned after that. I'm like, was it Alan that I was watching coming in? You know, I'm
But
like,
it's, I mean, you got the footage is there
yeah.
to prove it.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
literally.
I got great footage. It was Alan. I'm like, this is crazy. This is just nuts. But shit happens, and it can happen to anybody. That's for damn sure. And
Clearly.
hunting's crazy.
Well, yeah, and I don't know what was in the water that year or what, but we ended up, I didn't fill a tag on that trip, and it was the first trip that we ended up deciding to go back out late season. So the season went till January 7th that year. And we had the truck packed New Year's Eve at home. New Year's Day morning, we got up and got on the road, headed to North Dakota. And all the properties that we normally hunt in North Dakota at that point in the season, the landowner was basically like, you know, been kind of checking things out for you guys, but there's really not many deer running around. And at that point in the year, the deer are yard up. I mean, they group up into literally groups of, I mean, dozens to 100 plus heads of deer that will be running around together. And they're really just flocked around the food. I mean, wherever there's food, they're going to be. And so the properties that we normally hunt, the beans and everything were harvested, and the deer were kind of vacated at that point. So the landowner, out of the goodness of his heart, like, contacted one of his buddies that owns some land a little bit north of where we hunt and asked them if they had any deer up there or whatever. And he got us permission on this guy's property. I mean, he's got thousands of acres. They manage some deer up there and stuff like that too. And really the only stipulation that we had was the guy just wanted us to shoot an 8-point or less. You know, basically a management hunt is what he wanted us to do. Which, I mean, at that point in the year, I'm like, I don't care how many points it has. Like, I just want to, you know, we were just stoked to be going back up to North Dakota and enjoying the opportunity and just seeing that part of the country in a different time of year than we had ever seen before. So we go up there and we see the property a little bit, drive around, and we went in that first afternoon and it was nuts. We booted a boatload of deer out of there. I mean, a boatload going in. And we kind of knew that. The landowner said, like, you know, you guys are going in a little bit late. There's probably going to be deer there. You know, he was feeding a little bit. We were sitting on the edge of this cut cornfield. And, I mean, we had to have booted 30 deer out of there going in. They scattered like freaking a covey of
Nuts.
quail. It was nuts. But we got into the blind. And mind you, at this week of the season up in North Dakota, it was negative temperatures all week. Like, literally, before wind chill, negative temperatures. So the wind was gusting 20 to 30 miles an hour every day. I mean, with the wind chill, it was negative 20 to negative 40 on a daily basis. Like, you could not be in a tree. You could not be out in the elements for any extended period of time. You wouldn't have lasted. It just wouldn't have happened.
Couldn't have had exposed skin, that's for sure.
No, walking into this blind was tough
Yeah,
enough.
it was
So
brutal.
we were very fortunate and lucky to have this opportunity. We're hunting this guy's property, and he's got an elevated, you know, man-made box blind, and we had a heater in there, and so it was all fine and good. And mind you, like, the box blind was pretty big, and it was not for bow hunting. There was just basically one window on each wall of this blind, and they were smaller windows and stuff. So, like, it was not ideal for bow hunting. Well, the week went on. I mean, we were seeing 60 to 100 deer a night easily. It was one of the most insane, crazy experiences I've ever had in my life deer hunting, because we were seeing deer in the 10s and 20s and packs of 30 of them. I mean, like, from a mile away, walking in, feeding in these cut cornfields, eventually feeding all the way up, you know, to our blind. And we would be surrounded. The last hour before dark, our blind was absolutely surrounded. And, you know, we were seeing good bucks every night, you know, but we didn't have an opportunity at an 8-point, at a decent 8-point, or a decent 4x4 the whole time. And on the last 3 days of the trip, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, on the weekend, Kane, you guys all know Kane if you guys have been following us for any sort of time, from North Dakota, he started coming with us because we were kind of getting him into bow hunting and stuff. And I mean, he had to be, I don't know, 12, 13 at that point. He was young and he was full of ambition and full of questions. And so we were sitting for hours in this blind, and Kane was from window to window to window, and he's deer there. There's some deer. There's deer over there. There's over there. Here's over here. Over there. I mean, this kid was ate up with it, and it was actually really cool to experience because it kind of brought us back to our roots of like
very much
what got us into this sport. Because he was so alive and full of energy and life, just taking all of this in. It was insane.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. And in the moment, you're like, we need to harness this kid.
Harness.
Yeah. Put your seatbelt in your chair. But no, honestly, after even like this year, the past couple of years, taking all that, we always try to get young kids into the sport, just take people out, have fun, get someone new involved. And doing that over the last couple of years, we've taken a few people out that like literally just don't, maybe they just don't have the interest that we did, or someone like Kane does. They don't talk. Like there's no questions. There's no like
excitement.
You just don't get any fire,
Yeah.
fire. Like I want to consume every part of this that you do with Kane. Like Kane, you get the fire, and
Kane
it's been a blessing.
Fire.
It's been a blessing watching him evolve as a hunter, because like you said, you see us in it. Like we had to be so annoying like that when we were growing up, like asking all these questions. Yeah, I want to do this and that. Look at the, like making noise and moving around and stuff. But it's all when you look at it, from the big picture, it's just the dude had so much fire with this sport. Like, and it's awesome. You can't teach it. You can't teach that.
No. So the last 3 days, we started getting in at like 10 or 10:30 in the morning, because by noon, 1 o'clock, you were booting deer out regardless. Like the deer were out so early because it was so freaking cold. It was so cold. Like they literally had to lay right next to the food because they would get up every half hour or so and just consume a little bit because they needed the energy. Well, so the last 3 days, we're spending 7-8 hours in this blind with Kane, the question master. And finally, last day, we see a boatload of deer. It was probably the coldest, probably the best like weather condition day that we had. And we were just seeing a boatload of deer all afternoon. It was awesome. I mean, it was literally unbelievable. And it was probably like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of legal shooting left, and we see this buck with a group of deer coming right at us, like from this little bottom area, and he's coming at us. I'm glassing him. I'm like, Dean, looks like a 4x4 to me. Like we're glassing. Both of us are glassing. Mind you, the deer's coming right at us, so you can just see G1, G2, G3, taller tines, and he's just, kind of slowly making his way. And Kane's glassing him.
It's starting to get dark too, so it's not like you have perfect view of the deer. Yeah, it's just low light. There's a lot of factors involved.
I mean, this deer got probably 60 or 70 yards, and we said this is a 4x4. Like, this is it. And at that point, I had decided I was going to take the shot if the opportunity presented itself. And Dean's filming. And he's kind of bopping around from window to window trying to figure out which window was most effective to film out of. Kane is going nuts. You're going to get your shot. You're going to get your buck. It's a 4x4. It's a 4x4. You're going to get your buck. You're going to get your buck. So, naturally, I mean, this blind is just, we're trying to contain it, but it is just jacked with all sorts of energy, And now I'm standing up and I'm just kind of peeking at this deer as he's coming, just basically trying to see what his path is going to be. Well, he kind of banana curls like behind the blind, and I lost him, and he curls in to literally like he's going to walk right under this blind basically. So now I'm standing up all the while it's low light, and I'm going, Dean, you got enough light? He's like, yeah, looks good. This deer comes in, and I'm not even looking at his rack anymore at all. Like, I'm locked in kill mode. I see, he's going to literally come right to the base of this blind, basically. I draw, get him. He's walking in. I stop him. I'm in kill mode at this point. I shoot, and I hit him right at the top of the shoulders and freaking drop him in his tracks. And as soon as he dropped, like, I could see his head go, and I like saw the flash of like a G4. And like, before I even got down to the deer, I'm like, I had this pit in my stomach. I'm like, no fucking way. Like, no way. And so I had to put another, the deer was going to die, but he was right there. I'm like, I'm going to put another arrow in him. I went down, put another arrow in him so he didn't suffer. And literally, like, he's in this tall, like, switchgrass stuff right under the blind. And I pull his head up, and I'm like, oh my, no, like, literal emptiness in me. He's got like a 2-inch G4 on the one side, and he's got like a little, like, 3/4 inch, maybe inch G4. Like, he's a 5x5. He's a freaking 10 point. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, you want to talk about all of a sudden the same emptiness that we felt with freaking Alan and Phil comes about again. And I'm just like, they were still in the blind, they're celebrating, and I'm on the ground, and I'm just like, internally, I'm a mess. Because for us, and for me, like, I'm a man of my word. Like, this dude made us a promise we could hunt his property, only shooting a 4x4. And like, I mean, I could make all the excuses that I wanted, but at the end of the day, like, I fucked up. Like, I went against it. And one thing that I will say, and I will, like, my dad has kind of preached this to me and to us since we were very young, is taking responsibility for your own actions and owning where you're at, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent in life. You've made those decisions to get to that point, whether you want to be in it or out of it. Like, that's on you at that point. Own that. And so, as much as I wanted to scream, cry, bitch, make excuses, whatever, saw 2 of his friggin' points off and make him a friggin' 8-point, like, as much as I wanted to do all of that, like, there was only one thing to do in that moment, and that was to call the landowner and confess that I fucked up. And so that's what I did. And I mean, I literally called him as I was still on the ground, and that was probably one of the harder phone calls that I've ever had to make. He was not thrilled, didn't understand how that happens with a bow in your hand. And I mean, I don't blame him one bit, from a land management I mean, it was a great deer, probably put, mid 130s, 10 point, like, especially for me at the time, like, it was a great deer. And that wasn't a part of it. Like, it wasn't the greed of wanting to go home with a buck in the back. It was a damn mistake. Like, it was a big mistake, but it was a mistake at the end of the day. Like, it was my mistake. I had to own it with him. It was not fun. And then, soon thereafter, I called him. I called Kane's dad, and I had to confess to him too, because he got us the permission to hunt this property. So I felt bad. I felt horrible. Like, literally just put that deer back on his feet and make him live. I don't want to, like, it was crazy. It was nuts. But yeah, I mean, in that moment, like, there's nothing else to do but confess to the mistakes that you made and own it.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. It was, I don't know. That was nuts.
All the while, like, those both deer, and I think we did a good job of this as well, is both deer deserved the respect, or they deserved respect. It's an
they
animal.
got it. Yeah.
And I, like I was saying, I think we did a good job of that in the grand scheme of, like, the actual situation that we were in, that we put both of ourselves in, is we honored both of those animals and gave them, the respect that they deserve. but it still didn't take away from the fact that, like, wow, that was a tough situation, and that was just hard. Like, mentally, that was just hard. Like, it was hard. And you could say, and I would say, how does that happen? How do you mistake a 10 point for an 8 point, especially in bow range, especially that close bow range? And I would agree with you. I would say it to anybody. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But I did it.
Yeah. I mean, our problem is we were just so, in that scenario, we were so jacked up. There were so many variables, like with just being at blind forever, just,
seeing so many deer. Finally feeling like there was one that we could shoot, because we could have shot deer every day.
Yeah.
We could have, literally, you could have tagged a buck every night.
Yeah, it was just, it was crazy. There was so much going on. Kane was a jumping bean. And yeah, I think it was low light. Like, that was the thing. It's so, like, when you're hunting deer, if it's getting low light, like, that detail is very difficult to pick out.
Right.
And that was, like, obviously we're a lot younger then, but at the end of the day, like, we should have had the discipline to be like, it when in doubt, in that scenario, when in doubt, like, you just can't shoot.
Right.
But we were just, we were so convinced.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. We were so convinced, but that part of it was probably, some of that was emotional convincing.
Right.
And
the other thing too is,
but,
we didn't have the trail cameras to,
No.
and the identity of the deer like we're used to hunting. And that, that was a major part of it too. It was like,
it was
pick
blind.
Pick a 4x4 and shoot them,
Exactly.
So we didn't know what deer were in the area, what weren't, we were just seeing friggin' deer in the masses every night,
Yeah. Normally we have them identified, or when you see the frame or whatever, you see the deer, you don't
recognize.
You're not counting points, because you're just like, I already know what it is. I already know who it is.
Right.
And we didn't have that. You're exactly right. We didn't have one trail camera on that property, so we didn't know the deer, this and that. We just saw the deer, saw the frame from a long way away. Thought we ID'd them, and it was and we didn't. But that, North Dakota gave us the runaround that year.
Oh, my goodness!
Because we had 2 tags filled on 2 nice bucks, but both of them we just had this crazy, mind blown, empty feeling.
Oh my gosh!
Both of them, different times a year. Both of them were just crazy, weird drives home.
Yeah, the weirdest, and just like you loan for those scenarios, for those opportunities to like the success at the end of it all, holding that buck up, taking pictures, and celebrating together. And wow, that was a complete change of pace, and just. Part of our goose chase and part of our journey, honestly, it's made us better hunters.
Oh,
it's
100%.
It's made us better people.
Definitely.
It's humbled us, and just because we're filming and doing all this shit doesn't mean that we can't make mistakes, and doesn't mean that we're not human. So it's certainly done that for us as well. But yeah, I think the moral of the story there, especially with my scenario, is you just, something happens like that, you own it. You own it, and you move on. Nobody died besides him in the scenario. Like, nobody got hurt in the scenario. As a land manager and somebody that pays attention to the herd and kind of wants deer to live to see another year, I felt horrible in that scenario for the landowner, because I know that was probably one of the bucks that he was looking forward to seeing live another year. And that I can't give back. We wrote a long apology, tried to make it right, bought him a bunch of beer, just tried to do like at least some little things to help mend the situation and help make it right. But yeah, just wow. The fucking North Dakota experience that year was something that we'll never forget. That's for sure.
No,
my gosh. to go out there, fill $2 on the wrong deer, and just, yeah, that was insane.
How does that happen?
How does that happen?
Year to
in
each
the
of
same
us?
year. The craziest part is we came back and we kind of rebutted a little bit, because the next year we came back and shot that beautiful velvet 10-point on opening night. And so kind of weird. I shot the wrong deer the year before on the last day of the season and opened up the next season shooting a deer. So I technically shot bucks on back-to-back days of the season legally. Probably the only legal way you could actually do that.
Back-to-back days of open season, yeah.
It was in the same year. So it was, I think it was,
yeah, you're right.
It was 2019 or 2019 or 2018 in January 7th, 2019, one of the two, and then August 31st, I think, was that was that same year, but different season. Kind of nuts.
But different year.
Same but better results, because it was a deer that we actually did want to shoot, and we could celebrate him a little bit better and more. My gosh, what a! If you want to talk about a goose chase, we've about done it all, bro.
We have. We don't.
I say that now, and we'll be humbled again this year somehow, some way.
No. Crazy year.
Yeah, I mean, you think, to the people that are starting this and that want to get into filming their hunts or just kind of get into the hunting industry and stuff like that, it's like, those are the things that you have to realize, that the failures that you are going to go through are far more than the successes that you're going to have before you get there. That's just the long and short of it. And you've got to be willing to fail in order to get to the end all be all. I mean,
you got to embrace them.
You got to embrace that, and you got to learn from it. You got to let it humble you, and you move on a better person and a better hunter because of it, I guess.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just learn and be better. Learn and be better.
Mm-hmm.
Or learn from us and be better.
Yeah, exactly. Or don't do what we do.
Listen to this and then don't do that.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Well, we've expanded our time on this here podcast, talking about a little poopy here and a little poopy there. That's about it. But was another great episode. I've loved doing this so far, just reflecting on some of these hunts, on some of these memories, goose chases, things that we don't look back on often, but reliving it just it motivates me even more. It inspires me to keep going and doing what we're doing and getting more out of ourselves. And I've thoroughly enjoyed this so far. We definitely appreciate everybody listening and tuning in and all the comments and stuff like that. This has been very, very fun.
Very fun. It's going to be a podcast journey, and we're looking forward to continuing the road on it.
I agree with you, bro. I agree with you.
I keep looking in the background of my nice green, beautiful food plot, and then I look outside, and it's snowing like a biatch.
Oh my gosh, I don't.
Northeast Ohio. This is funny. 4 days ago, they call for 4 to 6 inches of snow. We get 1. The last 24 hours, they call for no snow. We've gotten about 8 inches.
Oh my God.
It hasn't stopped snowing.
That's insane.
It hasn't stopped snowing in 24 hours. The driveway is getting plowed. We have so much snow.
That is insane.
Gosh damn it. So right when you get into shed hunting mode, it's like, nope. You ain't doing it right now, bro.
Sit your ass down.
Do something else.
Listen to some goose chasing.
That's right.
Well, y'all, it's been one hell of a time. We appreciate y'all listening, and hopefully you have a fantastic rest of your week. Go out and chase something. That's what I would say.
Go
something you love.
Chase some. Flying V.
Go chase something. Go do what you love. We appreciate y'all listening in. We will see you right back here next Wednesday on your favorite podcast and next episode of Goose Chasing.
God bless y'all.
See you later.